I read 7 books in the 24th week of 2026, so let's go over my thoughts and ratings. Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle publishes on July 7th. This is a horror book and it follows Poppy, and she's an influencer by day and grave robber by night. When a queer icon, Eddie Michaels, a piano rock star, passes away, Poppy has one job: to retrieve his body. But while in transport, the unthinkable happens and Eddie wakes up. And from there, well, things get really out of hand. If you've ever read a Chuck Tingle book before, you know that they are so much fun, and this one was no different. I had such a blast while I was reading them. This was fast-paced, full of action, quirky, queer, and supernatural, while also remaining dark, disturbing, and utterly heartbreaking. This story had me locked in the whole time. It pulled at my heartstrings, it made me laugh, it made me tear up a little bit, and overall, I just thought it was so fantastic. I think this is my favorite Chuck Tingle book I've read so far. I rated it 4.5 stars. Monstera by Delilah S. Dawson publishes on October 13th, and this is a sapphic horror novella. It follows Lucy, and she's always lived under the rule of her overbearing grandfather, but he's just passed away, and so Lucy has moved into a stunning Victorian in downtown Savannah, and she feels like she won the lottery. Except she has this really creepy landlord. Soon, Lucy meets her secretive and charming neighbor Saskia, and as the two grow closer, they realize they share more than just an apartment building. My favorite novella by Delilah S. Dawson has always been Bloom, and this one is the closest I've gotten to the feelings that I had when I was reading that one. It has the naive FMC, the budding sapphic romance, and dark hidden secrets just waiting to be revealed. I absolutely flew through this. I actually read it while I was walking through Hyde Park in London. I'm sure I looked absolutely ridiculous with my nose in my Kindle as I was navigating through people and maybe bumping into a couple of them. Even though it's rather short, I really connected to the characters and I had such a good time as they discovered the truth about one another. This was deliciously dark and all-consuming. I had a great time while I was reading it. I rated it 4.25 stars. The Secret Attic by Chelsea Condren follows Addison, and she and her husband Luke have inherited his mother's property after her passing. Addison soon discovers some boxes in the attic, and as she starts to open them, Luke starts acting very strange. It seems that his mother Barbara's presence is in every single one of them. And to make matters worse, she stumbles across evidence connecting the family to the disappearance of a girl from many years ago. This was a banger. It had creepy dolls, it had so many dark secrets, it had sort of witchy vibes, like paranormal supernatural energy about it. It kept me guessing and I was engaged the entire time. Considering I didn't have the best experience with this author's previous book, I was a little bit apprehensive as I was picking this up, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this read. It's got dark small town secrets, deep-rooted family dysfunction, unhinged women, a very eerie and unsettling atmosphere. And I think this would be perfect to read at like the end of the summer or the beginning of fall. I loved the vibes, it was easy to read, it kept me engaged, and it kept me guessing. I rated it 4 stars. Starvaker by Andrew Michael Hurley is a folk horror book that follows the Willoughbys, and the worst thing ever has happened to them. Their 5-year-old son, Ewan, has tragically passed away. The mother, Juliet, is convinced that Ewan is still around in some form at their house Starvaker by the moors. So she decides to seek the help of this group of benevolent occultists. I know this book came out well before Odessa by Gabrielle Sher, but it really reminded me of that story, except maybe a little bit more simmered down, but definitely equally as weird in different ways. This was a quick read. It's like about 240 pages, but the text is so large, so I just absolutely flew through this while I was waiting to board an airplane. This has themes of ancient pagan folklore, grief, child loss, dysfunctional family dynamics, and heartbreaking desperation. I enjoyed much about this story. I enjoyed the themes, I enjoyed how easy it was to get through, I enjoyed the unsettling vibes, and I really loved the ending. Overall, I wouldn't say that this like totally stuck out to me, and if you're looking for a story about child loss and wanting to bring that child back, then I would recommend picking up Odessa over this one. That being said, overall, this is a good time and I rated it 3.5 stars. Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin is a supernatural horror novella. It follows a closeted archivist named Ellen, and there was this exploitation film that was said to have burned in a Nazi fire like 50 years ago, but turns out it wasn't, and as Ellen starts watching this film, frame by frame, it releases these occult horrors into her life. From the get-go, Ellen is a totally unlikable character in every way. She is self-hating in every regard. Rooting for her in the beginning was ultimately an impossible task. This was just not for me. I thought that every part about it was pretty much too much. It has some like really graphic, spicy scenes. Didn't appreciate that. It was vulgar. It had just like a bunch of hatred, which I know ultimately like that's a kind of the whole point of the story, and like it all gets resolved by the end, but the journey to get there, just didn't like it. I'm all for an uncomfortable read, but yeah, this one just was too much for me. Ultimately, I don't think this is a bad book. It's just definitely not for me. I don't want to sit here and dog on it, but I pretty much struggled the entire time I was reading it. Even though it's quite short, it is a slow burn, and that just made it so much harder for me to get through it. Just not for me, and I am rating it 1 star. Killing Me Softly by Christy Watson is a darkly suspenseful drama that follows 3 different nurses that work at this hospital together that is known for an increasing amount of patient deaths. In this story, we have Aoife, and she is the senior nurse, and she is starting to feel like maybe her new nurses are incompetent. We have Eden, and she's a new nurse, and she cares deeply about her patients, but she keeps making very silly mistakes. And then we have Sophie, and she is overly confident and seems to lack empathy, and she has put her sights on Aoife's best friend, a man that Aoife is secretly seeing behind her husband's back. You can't get this in the US, unfortunately, but you can get it from Blackwell's with free shipping to the US if you're interested in reading it. It's like a sinister version of Grey's Anatomy, and it is such a drama-filled fun time. This is so darkly comedic. I was chuckling several times throughout reading this story. These characters are so devious and conniving and so unlikable, but so intriguing. Now, I would not call this a mystery thriller, just because I don't really feel like there's anything that you're necessarily trying to figure out while you're reading this story. It's also not a thriller. It's not thrilling in any regard. That's why I called it a dark suspenseful drama. And like, there are deaths and there are a ton of things that you typically find in a thriller, but if you go into this with a mindset of thinking that it's going to be like twist after twist and that you're going to be totally mind blown and like desperate for answers as you read, I think you might be disappointed. So if you do decide to pick this up, go into it with a mindset of everything is kind of laid out for you and you're just seeing how the characters will react to what's happening. Not to say that there aren't twists, but I wouldn't say this is twisty like a typical thriller would be. Overall, I really enjoyed this drama-filled medical suspense, and the ending was so darkly satisfying. I rated Killing Me Softly 4 stars. The Whistling by Rebecca Netley follows Elspeth, and she goes to a Scottish island to be the nanny for a little girl named Mary, and she's hoping she will bond with the child. But then she finds out that Mary hasn't spoken in months following the death of her twin brother. Not only that, but it seems like this house could be haunted. There are strange lullabies at play, and dolls seem to appear in random rooms. What happened to Mary's twin William, and why did the previous nanny disappear? Immaculate vibes. Immediately, such great vibes. I love the Scottish, dark, eerie, gothic kind of house this place is set in. I love the unspoken secrets that the characters share that just really add this extra layer of unknowing dread that Elspeth is feeling. All of the different staff members, they just are biting their tongues about things. And the vibe is just so unsettling from the get-go. I was immediately intrigued in where this story would go. I love when I'm reading a book and it kind of reminds me of the vibe of another book, and for me that book was The Nesting by C.J. Cook, which I loved so much, and so I was very delighted that it reminded me of that book. If you like creepy kids, isolated settings, eerie vibes, dark family secrets, paranormal vibes, and a book that will keep you guessing, then you definitely have to check this one out. I definitely thought I had this all figured out, and the story definitely started making me think that I was right, but then the ending gave me whiplash, and I really appreciated that. I will say there was one element of the story that I wish had been like expanded upon more, and I left the story ultimately feeling unsatisfied with that specific element of the story. I don't know, I kind of just felt led astray for so long, and really would have liked that aspect of the story to be wrapped up a little bit neater. Overall, though, a spooky story that I really enjoyed. I rated it 4 stars. Thank you so much for watching. My favorite book that I read in the 24th week of 2026 was Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle. Please let me know if you remember what your favorite book was from that week. My most current weekly wrap-up will be posted either on Friday or Saturday, so look out for it.